ready?
You're on. Welcome.
What's up, y'all? What's up? How's it going? Y'all alright? So here we are. We're here for
Gab and Jam.
Gab and Jam, and this is
Rockstar Billboard, or why musical artists need to be concerned with branding.
Right.
Yeah, I know branding is one of those hot words now, and people are almost sick of hearing it.
Yeah.
But I guess after going to Gearfest, which you can check out the other videos, I didn't hear enough about artists being concerned with their own branding. I heard it in passing once or twice, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a lot deeper than that.
well, and I think where people get lost with branding is that I think they look at it, especially a person that's an artist, they look at branding as being something that's gimmicky. Mm-hmm. You know, they feel like it's something about being a gimmick and not being a true artist. And so you don't feel like, if I'm doing this branding thing, I'm not really concentrating on my art. And in part, you know, for me, this is coming from my own personal experience. I felt the same way about branding, that there was some kind of trickery that was going on with that. And, you know, you want your music to speak for itself. And it just never happens. You know, it really doesn't. It's like I'm sitting here and I'm playing a Fender Bass. And you know it from the headstock, you know it from the way that Fender is written, you know it from the way that the body is. You know that this is a Fender Jazz bass, you know, just based on the pickups and everything else. And other bass manufacturers who have come out and replicated that, you have a certain expectation, even though the Fender name isn't on it, you actually expect the Fender sound, kind of based on that. And really, that's branding. That is all branding. Same thing with the Gibson Les Paul. It's all branding. Things that we know and trust. We trust it because there was a brand. And what happens with a brand is once you establish something of quality, a certain expectation of what you're going to give your consumers, it becomes something that's very, very powerful. And it's something, and it passes from generation to generation. And so why am I saying that about, you know, artistry? Because it's the same thing as far as what do you expect people who consume your music or whatever type of art that you're doing, what do you expect them to get when they listen to your music? You know, because music is not listened to in a vacuum.
No.
That's why when you hear certain songs, they take you to a certain place, certain time in history. We're used to certain Creedence Clearwater Revival. We're used to them being associated with that Vietnam era. You know, and that's a part of their sound and who they are.
And their lyrics.
Right, and all of that is what makes up their brand and who they are.
So if they were to start doing EDM tomorrow, you'd be a little confused.
You would be. And if they came out dressing like EDM artists, you would be confused about what they're doing. Same thing with Bruce Springsteen. He has that folksy Americana rock type of thing vibe that he has, and that's part of his brand. The hair bands of the 80s. And I know we like to, you know, we probably laugh at it now, but nobody was laughing then when Motley Crue and all the rest of those bands were running to the bank. I mean, but that was all part of their brand. That was all part of branding. So that's it's a good thing for you to know, even for your art, that in order for you to make sure that people are going to get from your art truly what you intend for them to get, that you take care of that branding component.
And you don't leave it up. I guess, again, I'm back to where we're at with the music business, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. is that you need to take control of it. Don't let, we've seen artists, even people that we've known, who get signed to a record label, and the record label tries to make them, change them into what they think people want to see from them, instead of letting the artist kind of develop their own, whatever. If like we saw early Sia, early Jonathan Brooks, and if you look at their records, they're trying to be the next Madonna. And that is not in keeping with who they actually seem like they are. Right. And now, they seem like they're a little bit more free to be the people that their music actually communicates. Right. And so I think it's important that an artist not only understands their own brand and communicates that, but kind of stands firm. Yeah. And people keep talking about authentic. Authentic is just being yourself and having something to stand for. Yeah, it really is. And the thing that's different now is that I don't know if record companies do that anymore. So meaning that I don't know if record companies spend time developing you, helping you to develop your brand like they used to do eons ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that a lot of times if a record company is going to get affiliated with you, all that stuff is going to be done. Mm-hmm. You're going to have an established brand. You're going to have an established audience. Mm-hmm. And so what they're going to do is they're just going to tap into, your success, with a 360 deal that's going to take a piece of everything that you make. Wow. But again, kind of going back to that whole branding component, is that what's easy to do is to take somebody else's brand and emulate it, and try to, bank off of their success. It's just like if I'm building basses, it'd be a lot easier for me to just build a Fender style bass that's kind of got that sound to it, because people are gonna say, hey, okay, that's the type of bass I want. But the problem becomes is that there is this glut in the market. There are tons of people, including Fender, that are making these basses. So why should they buy it from you? Right. And it becomes harder for you to distinguish yourself. Whereas if you think about what's unique to you and you bake that into your brand, then all of a sudden, how well you do it is not going to be as much of an issue, because you're the only one that does it. Right. So to the extent that people like it, they're going to like it because it comes from you, and the fact that you're going to be able to grow within that style, because that style is what is innately you. And then you set the benchmark. You do. The Jack White and the White Stripes, where that becomes the benchmark. It does. I mean, I remember Sting saying that, is that, there's a whole bunch of people who sing better than he does, who are a lot more skilled singers and things like that, but no one had his voice. And that was true. Whether it's during the Police years or Sting now, that Sting voice is what became part of their mark. That was as much a part of their mark as the three guys with the blonde hair. So, I mean, these are all the types of things that help. It's like even with early Prince, I think probably for the first 3 albums, sung in falsetto exclusively. You didn't even quite understand what his real voice sounded like. And it wasn't until I think like Jack You Off on the Controversy album. Boy, am I showing you guys that I'm a deep Prince fan. That's deep. I've analyzed it to that. That's right. That's telling you something, right? That you actually heard his real voice. And then, with the 1999, you actually heard the real voice. But early on, that's the way we identify Prince. And that was part of it. Part of his brand too was you had not heard his voice at all, right? Because he didn't do interviews, and you never heard. It wasn't like it is today, where you can just Google it and find 15 interviews. He did not do interviews, and so you did not hear his voice. Right. So the mystery of Prince was, such a big part of what his brand was. And I think he almost really just deepened it more when Purple Rain came out, because even though you did hear his voice, you still really didn't know anything about him. You got this illusion that his parents were black and white, and that wasn't necessarily true. And so I think Purple Rain just gave you more questions than answers, and probably just deepened the interest in wanting to know more about this artist, this elusive artist. But the thing that we always knew about Prince from day one, from the first album, we knew that this was a guy who can do rock. We knew he can do funk. We knew he can do dance. We knew he could do all this, because he had that stuff on his album from the first 4-year record.
he had a diverse
jazz,
record.
yeah,
He had that.
Yep.
So that was all part of his marketing and his branding.
Yeah.
You know, from the inception. And I think that's the thing you have to be as an artist, is that your brand needs to reflect what's you being true to you. If it doesn't, then it's going to be very hard for you to sell it and to stay true to it.
And you don't want to reach the pinnacle of success. I still keep saying that, is that people who we think are successful and then they feel tortured, I think it's because, just like somebody working at McDonald's who doesn't like their job, they realize they don't like doing what it is that they finally are making money doing.
Right.
Because they're not being true to who they are.
Right. You don't want to create a brand and feel like you're trapped by the brand.
Right.
You know, you want to create a brand that, again, like I'm saying, it truly reflects you, so that your growth within the brand is something that's expected and is a natural evolution of what you do. You know, you don't want to be like McDonald's and then all of a sudden you're doing the car insurance.
Right.
You know, we don't expect that. But, you know, we may be able to accept McDonald's doing pizza. We might, or any other kind of food-related type products, we may be able to do that. Or even like getting into kids' toys, that kind of thing. These are certain things that we can kind of expect from McDonald's based on the way that they've built their brand. So, I mean, that's just a quick thing on branding.
Okay, cool. And I think it's important, again, even if you're being, even if you say, I don't want a major label deal, good. Because whatever brand you establish is what you're going to put forth. Right. You're going to be responsible. You're going to be the keeper of your brand, which means you're going to establish colors and fonts and whatever it is that you do, and there's no mistake and there's no accident that we're wearing our blue and Prejippie shirts. Yes. But again, everything you do needs to reflect who you are, and that's what you're going to promote, and that's going to be a secret to your success, your secret sauce.
And understand too that there's a whole area of intellectual property law that's dedicated to protecting brands, and that is trademark law. Trademark law is all about this, not copyright. Trademark is about you protecting your brand and you protecting what in the legal world they call the goodwill that's created along
coming
with
out
your brand. So that's, you know, that's, again, it's letting you know how important this aspect is. You know, when you think about intellectual property, you think about patent, you think about trademark, and then you also have copyright. So trademark, that's the branding. That's the branding component that we're talking about. So very, very important.
Okay, and if you want to know more about our brand, make sure you check out the What It Means to Be a Prejippie video. Also, if you want to know more about what happened at Gearfest, make sure you check out those videos. Yeah. And as always, love, peace, and
chicken grease. I got that one.
And if you dig the vibe,
hey, you got to subscribe.